Hello and welcome to this session on securing the cloud with Cloud Custodian. So first, let's talk about Cloud Custodian. It's a rules engine for managing cloud resources across AWS, GCP, and Azure. You write declarative policies in a YAML-based domain-specific language, and Cloud Custodian talks to the public cloud APIs for you. You can replace ad hoc scripts with those policies and get metrics and reporting out of the box. Now, security in the cloud can be challenging. For one, there are a number of ways to be insecure, from publicly accessible data, to overly broad permission sets for users and applications, to unencrypted resources, and the list goes on from there. Resolving those problems can be challenging also. Resource owners may not be aware of the policies that their organization has in place. General policies might not apply across the board, and remediation can do more harm than good in the short term if it's not done carefully. Incremental steps with tools like Cloud Custodian can help bridge the gap. You can measure where you're starting from and split large-scale changes into smaller pieces and communicate with the people who are provisioning resources along the way to help drive behavior change going forward. When you're planning and enforcing security controls, it happens in stages. First, before you change anything, it's important to understand the resources that you have in place and how they're configured today. Then you might filter that list down to focus on a specific misconfiguration. It may be something that you can take care of right away, or more likely, you'll need to notify the people who own those resources and schedule remediation some number of days in advance. And the last step is once you've planned those remediations, you can act on them. Okay, so let's look at an example and see what a series of policies might look like to identify and remediate unencrypted database resources using Amazon RDS. First, we'll explore. We'll just list all of the RDS resources in our account. Then, since we're specifically looking for unencrypted resources, we'll add a filter on storage encryption and see where that's not set. Then once we've got our set of unencrypted resources, we can flag them for later action using Custodian's mark for op action type. And last, we'll zip into the future and assume that our 14 days have gone by, and we'll delete those flagged databases. Okay, so now I've got policies loaded up in an editor, and we can run them using the Custodian Run Command. This command needs an output path and a policy file. I'm also including a -v so we can see a little bit more verbose output from the terminal. Okay, we filtered down, we found 2 RDS instances. Over on the left side in the output directory, you see some output from the policy run. What I'm most interested in is this resources.json file, which includes full configuration information for any matched resources. That can be a little noisy to look at here, so I'm going to bring it into an open source tool called VisiData from the terminal so that we can compare our 2 resources. Now we're looking for unencrypted, so we'll flip over to the encryption column. And here we can see that we've got 2 RDS instances, Demo 1 and Demo 2. Demo 1 is not encrypted, and Demo 2 is. And back over in the editor, we can flip to our second policy, which will filter out only the instances that are unencrypted. I'm going to let VS Code do the custodian run rather than typing it out again myself. And we see that it did filter from 2 to 1. Now that we've identified our unencrypted instance, the next step is to flag it for later deletion. We do that with the mark for op action, and we'll set it to delete in 14 days. This -D option to Custodian Run is a dry run to avoid accidental actions. In this case, I'm going to remove that. And we can see again it filtered down to one instance and mentions that it's tagging it for deletion on May 7th. We can actually go into the AWS console to see what that looks like. And go over and look at tags, and we'll see there is an RDS unencrypted tag. It shows that the resource doesn't meet our policy, what's going to happen, and when. And worth noting that the tag key and the message here are both customizable. Now that we've got our unencrypted instance marked for deletion, the last step is to delete it. So we've told it with mark for op that we want to delete it in 14 days. Which means if we use the marked for op filter, it's not going to match yet. We can use the skew option here to zoom ourselves 15 days into the future so that we can be sure that we'll match it. It did match 1. For dry run, we skipped the action, but now we can go through, we're confident in the results, we can go run it for real. And there we go, we've deleted the unencrypted instance, taking a final snapshot along the way in case any of the data in there was important. We haven't lost anything. We can always make a copy of that snapshot to encrypt it and then restore it encrypted. Then we've got the data back and it complies with our policy and everybody wins.